Verse 4. May I cherish this precious treasure. Whenever I see evil beings who are overwhelmed by heavy sins or suffering, I shall cherish them as something rare, as if I have found a precious treasure. If a Mahayana practitioner hasn't fully developed such a virtue, attaining Buddhahood in a single lifetime is impossible. Even ordinary worldly accomplishments will be out of reach. In the Age of Dharma Decline, most sentient beings show negative dispositions, such as being wicked, rough, and unreasonable. Their minds are filled with unwholesome knowledge, negative thoughts, and wrong views. How should we treat them? Obviously, it is not right to despise or avoid them simply because of their negative dispositions. On the level of intrinsic nature and ultimate reality, sentient beings and the Buddha are the same. However, in terms of manifest appearance, sentient beings are burdened by afflictions and lack freedom both physically and mentally, which gives rise to their negative dispositions. In other words, sentient beings have accumulated immense negative karma over countless eons. They are compelled by this karma and lack freedom, so they have developed terrible dispositions. In reality, sentient beings don't exist, but afflictions exist and negative dispositions manifest. Ignorance gives rise to negative dispositions. They have been gradually shaped since beginningless time. Therefore, we don't need to harbour afflictions. Since there are no sentient beings, why would we get vexed? So, what are the so-called sentient beings? They are the manifestations of ignorance and attachment. There are no real sentient beings. How can you harbour anger towards ignorance? Not to mention harbouring anger towards attachment, which is just a karmic habit. Why would you hate attachment? You should understand that it needs to be rectified, not hated. Whoever practices the Buddha's teachings wishes to tame their mental afflictions. However, their strong karmic force prevents them from realizing this beautiful wish. For example, those with intense anger deeply feel the suffering caused by this disturbing emotion. Whenever their anger subsides, they feel anguish, struggle, and unease. Each time they tell themselves, I can't behave like this again. But once they encounter a situation that triggers their anger, they relapse into their old patterns. Hence, again and again, they are tortured by such afflictions. Afflictions can bring great suffering when they arise. A great method to counteract anger is to meditate on non-self. Since there is no me and no other, whom do you hate? Who hates whom? There is no object of anger. Initially, it is hard to arouse the wisdom of non-self, but we can have a deep conviction in the law of cause and effect. By contemplating that everything is the result of our own actions, we can also tame anger. Additionally, we can contemplate that sentient beings have been our kind parents. Even if your benefactor harms you, you would forgive them. For example, if someone who has saved your life beats or scolds you, you wouldn't mind. But if a stranger were to punch or scold you, your anger would immediately emerge. Moreover, we can reflect on the ignorance of sentient beings. They hurt us because they are ignorant. They are overwhelmed by immense afflictions and cannot control themselves. Thus, they hurt us or do outrageous deeds. Hence, we can forgive them, forgiving their ignorance, anger, and negative thoughts because they cannot control themselves and lack freedom. Sentient beings are devoid of freedom. There are no real sentient beings. They are just the manifestation of karma without freedom. By pondering in this way, you will be even less likely to generate anger. Please persistently apply these methods during your sitting meditation. By doing so, you can swiftly overcome the anger accumulated over countless eons and free yourself from it. These methods I taught are very effective. It would be even better if you have aroused bodhicitta, as it can effortlessly tame your anger. When you aspire for all sentient beings to attain Buddhahood, even if someone harms you, it creates a karmic connection with them. As I mentioned yesterday, if someone forms a negative karmic tie with you, you can accept it because it allows you to liberate them in the future. You won't argue with them because your goal is to lead them to Buddhahood. No matter how they hurt you, you will see them as a priceless treasure. Sentient beings may harm others without any reason, at any time and in any place. As practitioners, if we haven't uprooted our afflictions, we are ordinary beings affected by external circumstances. Inevitably, we have to face harm from evil beings and experience pain and anxiety. Regard all harm as treasures. Whenever someone hurts us, we should not react with aversion and anger. Instead, we should see them as priceless treasures. While this instruction is easy to express, it is challenging to meditate on and even harder to embody in our actions. Nevertheless, we need to understand the reason behind it and progressively put it into practice. First, we should thoroughly comprehend it. Everything is difficult to begin, but can gradually become a habit. For example, when learning to use a computer, we might feel confused by its complicated operating procedures, but once we become proficient, it becomes a convenient way to work. Similarly, when we begin to practice this instruction, we may feel it is challenging to get used to. Yet, if we keep practicing, with the blessings of our Guru combined with our constant effort, we will be able to apply it freely when interacting with various individuals. We should apply this instruction skillfully. Whenever we encounter harm, we should regard it as a great treasure that can eliminate our immense negative karma. Hence, we shall joyfully accept such situations. Aren't we overjoyed when coming across a treasure? Everyone will be overjoyed. Some people may even faint with rapture. If we are thrilled to face harm, that will be great. Shantideva said, "If someone harms you, you should generate great compassion towards them. If you cannot do so, at the very least, do not get angry." Once, Venerable Drom Tonpa asked Lama Atisha, "What should I do if someone beats me, curses me, or tries to kill me?" His response is similar to Thogme Jangpo's. "If someone wants to cut off my head, when I have not done the slightest wrong, take all his sins upon me with compassion." This is the practice of a bodhisattva. If we haven't committed any wrongdoing, yet someone wants to take our head, we should be willing to bear their misdeeds with compassion. This is challenging, but if you gradually put it into practice, you won't feel difficult. A well-renowned Lama called Gacho Rinpoche in Qinghai province was persecuted during the Cultural Revolution. Before every persecution session, he would make an aspiration. Today, may I practice patience for the sake of all sentient beings. He referred to it as excellence in motivation. During the persecution session, when people were beating, insulting, or slandering him, he abode in a state of emptiness, free of conceptualization, and practiced the patience paramita. He called it excellence in action. When the persecution session was over, he quietly dedicated, I dedicate the merit of this practice of patience to all those who have beaten and cursed me, as well as to all sentient beings. This is known as excellence in dedication. After the Cultural Revolution ended, there was a freer political environment for religious beliefs. Those who had participated in the Lama's persecution went to repent to him. Yet he always replied leniently, You have nothing to confess. Without you, I would not have had the opportunity to practice the perfection of patience. That was a supreme circumstance for practice. Therefore, I don't hate you at all. Instead, I owe each of you gratitude. So please, forget about the confession. This exemplifies the extraordinary virtue and conduct of a Mahayana Bodhisattva. After recognizing how precious the situation to cultivate patience is, it is not hard to live out this spiritual state. It is not easy to encounter harm from enemies or unreasonable hurt. In other words, such opportunities are rare, and we should cherish them. Indeed, those who harm us are like a wish-fulfilling jewel, for they are indispensable assisting factors for attaining Buddhahood. The Buddha said that only those who have accomplished patience can become genuine Bodhisattvas. This is the standard being set for Mahayana practitioners, whether in the way of the Bodhisattva, the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, or in this text, 8 verses for training the mind. Therefore, when facing an evil being, we should repay them with gratitude, just as we repay the kindness of our Guru. For Mahayana practitioners who cultivate patience, foes are priceless treasures. Hence, we should always cherish them as precious treasures. We have harmed others in the past, and now, to cultivate patience, we implore others to hurt us. The 8 verses for training the mind is excellent. It is hard to start practicing it, but gradually you will find it less difficult. With further progress, you will find it becomes easy. When you can live it out effortlessly, you are close to success.